I'm going to start with green sleeves. I'll tell you what I wanted to do this afternoon, and that is to address chords and chord shapes. And each one of these tunes in its own unique way will make use of chord shapes. And why do I speak to it as chord shapes? Because it's easier to think one shape than it is three individual fingers or three individual strings. Especially if it's an upbeat tune, you don't have time to think, okay, thumb goes here, index finger goes there. You don't have time for all that. So hopefully we're gonna think in shapes. I'm going to share with you what I think is the most efficient way of fingering these chords. For those of you who are, I'll call it our kindred instruments today. Mark brought a guitar. I think did I see an auto harp? I saw a mandolin. You guys, I apologize for some of the tab that didn't have the chords up above. Typically I do, but if you need to know what chord is at a certain measure, jump up and let me know, okay? I'm gonna check my tuning one more time because yesterday I put new strings on this instrument. Green sleeves, I'm gonna play it for you. You follow along on the tab or watch my hand, okay? So I wanted to start with something that was somewhat familiar. Most everyone has heard the tune Green Sleeves, right? All right, so let me point out some things that I want you to be aware of. Let's go, these measures are numbered, by the way. Let's go to measure number 1. I want you to build that chord for me. You notice there's curved lines there. What do the curved lines indicate in my tablature? You're going to hold it for an extra beat. Don't strum it a second time, just hold it for an extra beat. Now, some of my colleagues don't do that in their tab. I think that it needs to be mathematically correct, just like standard musical notation. If you know the song, it's no big deal, right? But if it's a song you never heard, that comes in handy to know how long to hold the strum. I'm going to call that an L-shaped chord. So if you lay your fingers down at 1-1-3 or 3-1-1, however you want to think about it, you see the letter L? If I connect the dots. Then at the end of that measure, you see the 2, the 3, and the 4. I'm going to call that a slant shape because I'm slanting across the fingerboard. It's not a 45-degree angle, but you know what I'm saying. It's a certain angle across the fretboard. So as you go along here, I want you to think about, oh, is that an L shape? Is that a slant? Oh, there's another L shape. Oh, there's another slant. That sort of thing. That's what I want you to think about. Now, keep in mind, in most Dulcimer tablature in this tuning, you're going to find that the L-shaped chord is the most common, the most used. Why is that? I'm not really sure, but that just seems to be the way most people think about it. The slant, I'm not so sure it would even come in a close second. So in this arrangement, we're going to find L shape, we're going to find the slant. In measures 15 and 16, we're going to find a bar chord. Well, that's easy enough, isn't it? And then we're also going to find a triangle shaped chord in measure 7 and again in measure 23. Now, if you're uncomfortable knowing which fingers to use, what I like to do, and this seems to be the most efficient way, is I like to build a bar chord with these last 3 fingers. And then I always have 2 available fingers to work with out ahead of the bar. Now, I know some of you don't like to use your little finger. You know, I would encourage you to get used to it because it is a more efficient way, but it's not the only way, okay? Don't go away from here saying, Larry said I had to do it like this. No, I didn't. I just said this seems to be the most efficient way. So let me play through those first two lines, and I'm going to talk about shapes as I play. I'm going to start out with a one volume on the mic or the dulcimer. Dulcimer, okay. Be careful what you wish for there. Is that a little better? What about you guys in the very back? You okay with that? Okay. I'm going to start out with a 1-1-1 bar before I ever start. So this is an L-shaped chord. Here's a quick slant. It goes back to an L shape. It goes back to a slant, and there's a tie missing there. Then the beginning of a second line, this is an L shape. Here's a bar chord, and here's that triangle. Now you notice I'm going to the middle string occasionally to pick up one of my melody notes. It's because I already have it down as part of the chord. So if you're one of those who tends to pick your fingers up after you play a chord, you may be in trouble here because then you have to set it right back down in the same spot. Now keep in mind, measure 3, there is a tie missing. Everybody see where I'm talking about there? That 2, 3, and 4, 4, 3, 2, there's a tie missing. And I swear it was there at one time. You know, sometimes, Cindy, do you use this table edit software? I think you do sometimes, don't you? Do you find that sometimes you're like me, I swear it was there, and then when it prints out, it's just not? I don't know what it is. Hey, can we play those first two lines together? I'll count 1, 2, and we'll come in 3, 1, 2, 3, like that, okay? Everybody ready? Well, let's get ready. 1, 2, hold, hold, now, out of those two lines, those 8 measures, which finger could have and probably should have stayed on the fingerboard the entire time? For me, it's that ring finger on the middle string. You know, when you go to that 2, 1, 2 there in measure 7, I still have that ring finger on the middle string. Think about leaving fingers down. This is what, and Cindy was talking about smooth playing earlier. This is what will make your playing smoother rather than picking your entire hand up as you play those chords, okay? Let's play the next two lines because they're almost the same. Let's start at measure number 9 after I count 3. 1, 2, 3. Now leave that down. Strum, hold, hold, strum, hold, hold. You good with that so far? Is there anything in the tablature that you don't understand? Go ahead, Mark.
Okay, I see that like on measure 11, you hit the D. Do you want to hit the D on 12, or do you just let it ring?
I would say hit it again, just to reinforce the fact that we're at the beginning of the measure.
Okay.
Because that's going to help keep the foundation moving. Yeah. All right, so let's play that first half again. There was something that I wanted to mention, and I can't remember now what it was. It'll come to me in the middle of the night, and I'll email you, okay? Counting 2, this is the beginning. 1, 2. Think shapes. This is an L, a slant, another L, slant. Leave those fingers down if you can. 2, 3. You guys sound great. All right, so at the beginning of 17, someone tell me what shape that is at the beginning of 17. And that L shape turns into a slant in the next measure, doesn't it? Which hopefully, if you're using that efficient fingering, you have that index finger available to add at that 6 when the time comes, instead of picking your whole hand up. All right, so that's a B minor chord at the beginning of 17. Let's play those two lines, 17 through 24. 1, 2, 3. Hold, hold. Oh, you've seen this before, haven't you? You okay with that?
Yeah.
All right, let's do those last 8. 1, 2, go. Strum, strum. Now, occasionally I'll hear someone strum just a little ahead of everyone else. What does that tell me that you're probably not doing? You're probably not counting to yourself. Even if you don't say 2, 3, you could say hold, hold. Do something to kind of keep you from speeding it up. Typically, songs we know, we tend to want to play a little faster because we know where the mistakes are if we've got a good ear. Let's play the whole thing. Think shapes, because we're going to need that in the next song. By the way, and I didn't mention this earlier, this is in the key of E minor. Now, typically, what do you do if you want to play an E minor while tuned DAD? Capo, 1. Yes. So why am I not capoed?
You're using our pitches.
Yeah, technically I am capoed, aren't I? This is kind of a movable capo, which gives me access to the open string if and when I need it. The capo has taken away 3 of our notes, hasn't it? So I do that a lot. I'll bet you now, and I've evolved over the years, I bet I don't play a half dozen songs with a capo. I'd prefer to do that and then be able to use what's behind it. Let's play the whole thing and I'll shut up. 1, 2. Looking around the room that some of you know my friend, and you've been around her some, my friend Susan Trump. Because Susan Trump, if it's a held note, she'll air strum to keep the beat. I think it's a great idea. I don't do that, but I think that's a great idea. So if you're one of those who tend to want to rush a little bit, you might want to just air strum when you're not supposed to be strumming. Go ahead.
I'll call back strumming. I mean, you play a chord. Read the beat.
So I'm a drummer. So that's what I expect to do when I play. So what he's asking, and I'm putting words in your mouth here, these tied notes, except for the ones at the end, 15, 16, typically get 2 beats. So what I'm doing, I'm thinking 1 and 2 and. So I'm not really ever strumming when I do something like that. I'll do 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 3, 1 and 2 and 3, like that. And it works great in 3/4 time because you got 3 strings.
And it's much smoother.
So yes, and it's more melodic. It's more sounds more like a classical guitar style, where the classical guitarist is playing with his or her fingers. Yeah. So what you were doing different from me, you were doing strum 2 and 3, strum 2 and 3. So any combination of techniques there, I think would work very well. Now here's where it doesn't work as well. If you've got this many people trying to play that rhythm. So it helps if some people aren't playing all of the notes. Instead, like it's written here, more of the ties. Because then you can tend to keep the group together a little better, but maybe have some of the more skilled players that are more comfortable with that doing exactly what you said, because that's going to help drive the beat. Now, to my left over here, I'm hearing Mark. He's kind of reinforcing that with that guitar. You know, you guys may not be able to hear him over there. Mark, you're not playing loud enough. No. Thanks for the comment or the question, okay? This one is a little different in that we're not worried about a lot of chord shapes here. This is more of a skill builder. There's some hammer-ons, there's some pull-offs. I'm not going to worry about those right now. I want you to kind of sight read through it. First of all, 6/8 time. Let me talk about that. Top number, the 6, tells us there should be 6 beats in the measure. The bottom number, the 8, tells us that the 8th note gets the beat. Now in 3/4, 4/4 time, it's the quarter note that gets the beat. So everything, note values are doubled here. But what you need to know, in order to help drive this jig style beat, there are 2 main beats in each measure. Beats 1 and 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So what am I doing on beats 1 and 4 in the tab? I'm accenting, but what am I doing to accent it? That's where I'm strumming. Yes, that's the strum. So it's pick, strum, pick, strum, pick, pick, strum, pick, pick, strum. So you don't want to do this. Although you could strum on every one of those beats. I just would really rather strum only on 1 and 4 and pick the other notes individually. Now some of you may be saying, well, that's difficult for me because sometimes I hit the strings, sometimes I don't. I want you to watch, if you can see, I want you to watch what my right hand is doing here. What am I doing there? I'm anchoring it so I don't have to move any farther than I have to. So if you're a free strummer, and a lot of you are, I understand that. If you're a free strummer, sometimes you miss those individual strings. So on something like this, you may want to force yourself to anchor your hand so you don't get a lot of unnecessary movement. Now, some of you, does anyone have one of those wrist rests that you can sit the heel of your hand on and play? I've got some, I just don't use them. But it's just little pieces of wood that they glue together and sit on top of the strings here. You can rest the heel of your hand if you don't like to do this.
Are you always strumming from the string to?
I do because you do. So his question was, do you strum from the bass string in? And yes, I do, because I want to hear that low tone first. And that helps my playing to sound much more rhythmic than if I strum away from me and strike that bass string just a fraction of a beat after. So when Mark's strumming, he's strumming the low notes first. All right. And so that's really the reason I do that. Now, Billy Joel said it best, don't go changing, try and please me. Okay? Remember that song? I know you do. But yeah, you may want to experiment with that and see if you like it, but don't change just because I said that that's the way I do it. But here's the other thing, Mark, since you brought it up. Look at the note that follows every one of those strums. It's on the inside string, isn't it? So if I strum in toward me, I'm on the correct side. Well, I shouldn't say the correct side. I'm on the most efficient side to strike that next note. So if every time I strummed, I have to waste a motion to come back, and there's what? 2 strums in each measure, and there's 18 measures. Someone do the math on that. That's 36, and that's not counting repeats. Unnecessary motions that I have to make. So I'm just trying to be efficient. I know I sound too left-brained when I say that. Listen to that first part again, and I want you to play it with me. How many beats do you hold that last strum for, the ones that I just played? Someone say 5. It's 5 beats because you see the pickup note at the end of that measure takes you back to the beginning, back to that other repeat sign. Now, Larry, I can't play it that fast. I'm still sight reading. Oh, okay, let's slow it down. Let's do it about like... All right, let's see if we can do it that speed. I'm going to count 5 because you come in on beat 6, right? 1, 2, 3, here we go. Since you're doing so well, let's repeat it. 1, 2, 3, here we go. Second ending right here. And let's stop right there. All right. Now that sounded good. All right. So what's going to be the challenge to playing that, what I'll call the A section? Well, it'll be the same with the B section. What's going to be the main challenge?
Getting it up to speed.
Getting it up to speed. Because, you know, you eventually want to... All right. Da-dum-ba-da-da-da. Here we go. To play this next time we play out, but I can't keep up with all those notes. What would you do if you wanted to participate but you couldn't play it to that speed?
I'd say the chords all the time.
There you go.
I can't
So,
do that.
and you have just as much fun as Kathy or any of the rest of them, right? So what she's saying, I'm putting words in your mouth. She's going to go D, 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 and the G, and D, 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 A, or something like that. Hey, she's having as much fun as anyone else. So don't let the fact that some of the people in the room are running off and leaving you keep you from having fun, okay? Listen to this next part. I'm starting at the top of the second page. I'm sorry, let me start again. So here's the key to this one. You know, I'm always looking for a key piece to the puzzle. In the case of measures 10, 11, and 12, or actually, well, 10 and 11, and then again 14 and 15, index finger, middle string. It goes from 5 to 6, 5 to 6, and then it goes 5, 6, 5, 6. So your thumb's going to reach up to get the 7. I'm going to use my ring finger to reach back and get the 4. But this finger you don't pick it up, you just move it. And if I can stand up, that sounded like I couldn't stand up. No, I'm not 70 yet. All right, look here. I'm going to start here with this position. See what I'm doing there? Let's see if we can play that page. 1 and 2. Here we go. 2 2, hold. Let's repeat it. Go. 4, 7. Hold. You guys, you don't have a problem with that, do you? Let's try this A, A, B, B. You know what I'm talking about when I say A, A, B, B, right? We'll keep it slow. I know you're sight reading. 1, 2, here we go. Let's repeat it, okay? Second ending, we go on. Back to the top of the page. Now, ladies and gents, they're going to Scotland. There's a Scottish jig. It's not Irish, it's Scottish. But both cultures have jigs in their repertoire. So, but it's also a bagpipe tune. I think it's a dulcimer tune.
Just can you play up the speed?
I'll try. I've got this microphone in my line of sight here, and I don't have it memorized. Now, keep in mind that what I call up to speed may not be what the Irish fiddlers and Scottish fiddlers would do. Off She Goes is a little different from Cock of the North in that it uses all 3 strings to create the melody. But it's got the same feel. That's why I wanted to go ahead and do it. So you see, it's got that same feel, but we've got all 3 strings creating the melody. Bass, middle, and the melody. Let's see if we can play the first 2 lines slowly. Let's do it about like 1, 2, 3. Let me count it off so everyone gets in there at the same time. 1 and 2, here we go. Oh, 1, 2, oh. Oh, 2 and 1. Let's repeat. Now, are you used to playing the melody on all 3 strings? Some people aren't. You know, you were told when you bought your first dulcimer, the string closest to you is the melody string, and that's where you play your melody. You know, for some reason, it didn't occur to me you could play melody on those other 2 strings until I started seeing other people. And you know, one goal I had when I started out was to try to surround myself with the best players I could find and watch what they did. And I learned so much back in those days from people like Steve Mayfield and David Schnoffer and Mark Biggs, and I could go on and on. You probably don't remember any of those names. Larkin Bryant, some of you may have had Larkin's book. But those were people that I watched and I patterned what I was doing after. Of course, several of those people aren't with us anymore. Just tells you how long I've been doing this, I guess. You okay with that? We're going to do it one more time, but you okay with it? Questions? By the way, this is called a single jig in that you have long, short, most of the time. A double jig would be one of those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, where you have something on every beat. So that's the difference between a single jig and a double jig. And then there's a slip jig that has an extra 3 beats to it. And I don't know. I guess when they get drunk, they make this stuff up. Let's play that A part again. Same tempo. 1, dum, dum, dum. Here we go. Oh, 2, oh, 1. So far so good, right? Let's talk about fingering in this second half. I think you're not going to want to do this. I think you're going to want to put your thumb here, but I think at the beginning of measure 9, probably should use your ring finger on the 2. That way the thumb is out there in front. And then move that 2 up to 3 to do 3, 5, 3, and then move it back to 1. So let the ring finger melody string be the key to playing those two lines. So if you're close enough that you can see what I'm doing, I don't pick it up unless I've got an open string. It's either playing a 1, a 2, or a 3. Let's try those 8 measures. We'll do it about like 2, 4, 2, oh. Ready and go. 2, 4, 2, oh. So you would not have thought about that yourself, I'll bet. You would have just sort of sight read through it and you wouldn't have thought a lot about your fingering. But don't you agree that if you use that finger and let it sort of lead you around, then the thumb can take care of what's out ahead of it? It makes so much sense, but it's not something you want to play for fun. You don't want to have to sit and analyze things, right? But sometimes you have to if you're going to get it up to speed. A, B, B. Let's see what we can do with it. Dum-dee-dum-dum, here we go. say this, that's a blueprint. Because I guarantee you, if we had 100 Irish fiddlers sitting here in this room, it would be crowded, right? If we had 100 in the room, 99 of them would play it different. You know, they're going to play it, they're going to give it different inflections, they're going to make some of the notes longer, some of the notes shorter, that sort of thing. You know what I'm saying? So it's an individual thing. So think of this as a blueprint. And if you see something that you want to be a little more creative with, by all means do it. Now, what could you do with this song and the one before it? You could make a medley out of it, couldn't you? Now, yes, one of them's Scottish, one of them's Irish. But your listener's not going to need to know that, right? I've just got a couple of jigs I want to play for you. You could go straight from one to the other. Now, one of them, not off she goes, has pickup note. So then you'd have to play through to see which one sounded better being played last. Do you want to add the pickup note going into the second one, or do you want to make that the first one? One way was probably going to sound better than the other. So again, if you never played it out in public, it's a great skill builder. Okay, and there's so much to be said for that. Okay, so let me play through this one time. Okay. As I play through it, I want you to look at those chord shapes like we were talking about and kind of try to identify them. So you see how I'm able to make that as smooth as possible by trying to leave fingers down. You know, otherwise you have something like, I'm exaggerating, aren't I? But I'm not connecting my chords like I should. So when we're playing through this, I want you to think of ways to leave fingers down. Now, it's a little easier, Mark, on guitar. Typically, you know, you're working around the chords, but most of the time you have fingers down because unless you're tuned in an alternate tuning, you don't have a chord, do you? So you almost have to have fingers down all the time. Here we've got a lot of open strings at our advantage. All right, so in measure number 1, what is that chord shape? Open, 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 that's a bar. That was a trick question, right? And then measure 2, we'll call that a reverse slant, even though it only takes 2 fingers. An L shape in measures 3 and 4 and 5. And technically measure 6 is also an L shape. It's just that those 2 open strings are being built for you. So let's play through it and think shapes. Think how smoothly you can connect one measure to another. I'll count 1, 2. Our first note, our pickup is on the middle string. 1, 2. Hold. That last little pull off, if you're not careful, you'll pull off too loud and then it'll just kind of destroy what you're trying to do. So be sure you're gentle with that pull off. I've heard my wife refer to it, it's not really a pull off, it's just a pick up. And if you just think about picking up, there's going to be a tone there, it's just not going to be loud. What about measure number 8? What are you seeing there at the beginning of measure number 8? I'm going to call it a partial strum because you don't see anything on the melody string, do you? So please, please, please avoid that, okay? Instead of the chord that's supposed to sound, which is that, you might have this. if you hit that melody string by mistake. That's not what we want, is it? So that's intentional. The same thing at the end of measure 15. Again, if I'm just playing that 3 and that 2 and I accidentally hit the melody string, again, we have a chord that's not very pleasant, right? So be careful. Now, some people will say, well, I'm better off strumming away from me to avoid that string. Other people will say, well, I can strum in toward me and I can stop before I get to that string. What I'm actually doing, and this is just something I've developed over the years, I'm actually hitting that string with a bare finger so that I don't strum it. But that's just me, you know, you don't have to do that. All right, so you're thinking shapes? Please say yes, okay? Let's try it again. Think smoothly, okay? Hey, by the way, where could you use this song? Christmas time. It's one of the tunes to Away in a Manger, isn't it? And if you did... you could do that tune and then just come right into this one. And you could do 2 different melodies to Away in a Manger. All right, let's try it. Counting 2. 1, 2. Why don't we repeat it? Now, if you're playing this as a solo, I would recommend that you slow it down there at the end. It's a little harder to slow down and speed up, kind of let it ebb and flow if it's the whole group playing it. And you've already discovered that from playing other songs, haven't you? Hard to stay together if you're going to be expressive with it. All right, so let's talk about, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time at this, the notes that have a stem below the numbers, those are quarter notes, they get 1 beat. If they're coupled together in pairs by that horizontal beam, those are 8th notes. They're quicker, right? Most of you know that. Some of you played organ, so you know that. For those of you who aren't music, you don't have a music background, this is one reason that I like to add this. It's not in your way, but at the same time, it's helpful for those who do have a musical background. But having said all that, let's look at the 8th notes, okay? There's some at the end of measure 1, measure 2, measure 4, measure 6. What could you do in the way of an embellishment on each one of those? Hammer on, pull off, slide. All right, so let's decide right now what you might do. What about this first one? That would be a hammer on, wouldn't it? What about 2 to 3? I think that'd be a slide. And I played the wrong note. What about right here at the end of 4? That's a hammer on if you've got that bar down at 1. What about this one right here? Again, that's a hammer on, right? And so on and so on. Now you can figure this out for yourself. One reason I leave them out of certain songs is so I can address this and hopefully trigger something in your brain to say, you know, I need to be looking for those. He's got a point, because that's what makes it smooth, right? When you're singing a song in choir, and some of you grew up singing in school choir, things like that, you were taught not to take a breath until you get to the end of a phrase, right? Hold it out. You don't, if we're singing away in a measure, we don't do, when, in, and. We don't do that. So think of it the way you would sing it. Think about those hammers and pulls and slides too. 1, 2. Smooth. That's pretty now. It is pretty. On Raglan Road. Let's go there. Sandy, how am I doing on time?
We've got about 15.
15 minutes, okay.
And they want you to play for
I know a couple of songs I can do. All right, again, following up on what I've been trying to do all afternoon, and that is talking about the chord shapes and thinking of them in the most efficient way. That's what you're going to see here. Now, the 2-finger chords, I don't typically think of those as shapes. I'm talking about something that takes 3 fingers to play. Let me play it for you. And of course, that's going to get 5 beats. And then I have... All right, so rhythmically, this is no big deal because you have strum, hold, pick, strum, hold, strum, hold. Can we do the first page?
Yeah.
I think we can. I want to mention one thing before we play, and this is something you may want to try. When you've got more than 3 strings, in the case of Mark, has got, what is that, a 12 string with 2 broken strings, or are they all there? They're all there? Okay. So when he strums, there's no way he's going to hit all 12 strings at one time. Pretty close, but, right? You're not hitting all 12 strings at one time. The harpist, the harpers are the Highland people, okay? When they do these glissandos, they go from the lowest note to the highest note. When a pianist rolls a chord, typically it's from the lowest note left hand to the highest note of the right hand. That's what I'm trying to imitate when I do this. Do you hear that little roll of the chord? It's easy to hear with this amplifier. But that's what I think makes it pretty. You know, I could go in here and do... and strum as quickly as possible, and it's not as expressive. So this time, I'd like you to just try strumming in toward you and dragging that strum. Think about brushing crumbs off the table. If you brush too hard, the crumbs are going in the floor. Okay? Let's see what we can do. Think like a harp. I'll count 1, 2. 1, 2, oh, 1, 2. know that's awkward, isn't it? Because you're not used to strumming that direction. But do you see how it kind of adds a little expression to it? And I think it does something else, and this is just my opinion. I think it keeps you from going too fast. I think it tries to slow you down a little because you're forcing yourself to slow your strums down.
Yeah.
All right, now that being said, let me point out a couple of things. One being, let's see, measure 13 is a good example. That's an L-shaped chord, but it's actually based on a bar chord at 2-2-2. Because when I get through strumming that, what's the next note that follows the strum? It's part of the 2 bar, isn't it? So when I play measures like that, I always have that bar down. And then I don't have to worry about anything except picking that thumb up and getting it out of the way. In measure number 14, I've got that 5 bar down, and then I can go get that middle string 5 at the end of that measure. I didn't have to pick up anything. Everything is still ringing, connecting the dots. All right, so let's play the second page. Let's start with that G chord at the top of the second page. 1, 2, go. Now there's 1 or 2 places in here where it falls under the category of don't blame me, I didn't write the song. Go to measure number 18. The end of that measure, you have a 7. The beginning of the next measure, you have to be at 2, don't you? Yeah. So that's one of those things you need to be aware of so you don't do this right here. Yeah. Don't short the 7 in favor of the strum that follows. What could you do then? Slow the tempo a little bit. You could do. Now, maybe that's not the best place in the world to do it, but that would help you to not short that note. And I think there's one other place in there, and I don't remember where it is. Yes, 10 into 11 on the first page. Same thing applies there. Don't blame me, I didn't write the song. You know, those melody notes are far apart. I didn't do that. Okay? Let's play the whole thing. Counting 2. 1, 2, oh, 1, strum. Drag that strum. Connect the dots as smoothly as possible. 2, 3, 1, 2. You guys sound so good. All right, I want to talk just briefly about Finlandia. We're not going to play through it necessarily, but this is what's going to be your challenge for the day, okay? And you may want to make a note. I don't know if that's going to be necessary, but here's what I want you to do. think shapes, and you see where under the title it says this is a chord shape study. You're going to have the bar, the L shape, the slant, and the expanded or extended slant I didn't talk about. That would be the chord you find down there in measure number, help me out someone, 11.
5, 6, 7.
No, that's a slant there in 11.
10.
5, 6, 8.
Yes, in 10, where you have the 8 is kind of stretched out there a little bit. Okay, so as you go through here, I want you to do two things. One is I want you to think chord shapes, and the other thing is I want you to leave that down the entire song. There is not an open string in here, is there? So Simon says, leave it down. So here's, and I'm not going to play through the whole thing, but I want you to see a little bit about what I'm talking about. See, I'm not picking that bar up. And because of that, I'm able to get from one chord to the next. And I need to look at my, yes. There's that expanded or extended slant. Do you see how this is going? All right. Leaving that down, working out in front of it with these two fingers. What's the name of that song? Be Still My Soul. Well, some of you are asked to play in church every now and then. Well, there's you something you could play in church. It's in the key of G, just in case you had somebody that wanted to play it with you, okay? Now, we're not going to go over it, but that's your challenge, okay? That's your homework. Red is the rose, is the Irish version of Loch Lomond. Okay? So it starts out like this. Again, chord shapes. Then you have so the second half, starting there with measure 17, is the same as the first half with your fretting hand. Notice I didn't use left hand there, I used fretting hand. It's the same thing. What's the difference? You're breaking up the chord. What do we call that? Arpeggio. We're arpeggiating the chord by breaking it up into individual notes. The left hand, the fretting hand, does not do anything different from the first page. And Almonds Rambles, I didn't get around to that one either. Just like the earlier one, I'm terrible with names. Your melody is on all three strings. A double G. That's the A part. Now I need to spread out the pages so I can see this one. Notice it ends on that minor chord, doesn't it? And typically a lot of the old Irish tunes will end on that relative minor, we call it, in this case, the B minor chord. Single jig or double jig? You were listening earlier, weren't you? Yes. Remember,